Okay, let's go. We are going to make multi-samples today. Let's talk about how we make multi-samples. So, I used color coding in order to explain the routing. All right. So, the red is the audio out of the Nanobox and into the recording device. The blue is the audio in to the Nanobox from the S1. The green is the MIDI out of the Nanobox and into the S1. We've got to send a MIDI signal out of the Nanobox to play a note that is going to get recorded into the Nanobox. A multi-sample is going to make one file per note. We're going to determine how long that note is going to be held. And then we're going to record a set of them. So if I want, a keyboard, I'm going to make 40 some notes. Or if I want a bass, I'm going to make 25 notes. The point being is you're making a separate file for every note. So I have a bass sound loaded up. Pump up the jam. We're going to set this up to record. I have a blank preset open. Okay, we are going to press in to the first pad. Okay, ba-bum. We're going to play the note. This is very important. First thing you want to do is play the note. There's a little meter up here, and you can tell that I'm clipping. All right, so I'm going to reduce the volume on first the synth and okay, that looks good. But let's say I wanted to keep the volume high on the synth, or I had no control over the synth. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click this gain, and we're going to lower the gain until we stop clipping. So it looks like in this one, I stopped clipping somewhere around 6.4 dB. Okay, that is going to be my record signal. So let's go through what's on this menu. We're going to be doing a multi-sample. So the first thing you need to look at is there's a 1x, a record, and a load for any sample. 1x would be if we were just recording one sample. So if you wanted to record a drum loop, which I will do in a later video, you would use 1x to record a drum loop. If you wanted to record a vocal sample or a stab, anything that's going to be a single recording of a piece of audio. But a multi-sample means I'm going to make one file per note, and then those notes are going to be assigned to the keyboard of a key bed. So we're going to switch to MX. Okay. So we have first our record input. We're going to leave this into stereo. You can do left, right stereo. You could do just left and just right. Depends on what you want to do. Then we have the gain, which we've already set, and we're not clipping. Ooh, we're clipping if we hit 2. That's okay though. We're only clipping if we hit 2. There's a file name. I'm just going to leave it alone for now. There's a start note. And then there's an end note. So actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to change the file name. We're going to call this clear. We're going to call this S1 because I'm taking it from the Roland S1. And we're going to call this S1 bass. I'm going to call it bass 3 because I have some other basses in here. So we're only going to record bass. So we don't need to go from C2 all the way up to C6. That's a lot more notes than I probably need. I'm going to go from C2 to C4. Make a little bass patch. In fact, I'll go deeper. I'll go to C1 just to see what I get. So I'm going to go to C1 to C4. I'm going to sample every single note, every one note. I want each note in the section. You could do this sometimes if you want to save space. every fifth note, every eighth note. You could just do the octaves of an item. That will save you space, but I'm not going to do that here. I very rarely do that, to be quite honest with you. You could assign velocity layers. So essentially what it's going to do is it's going to send a MIDI signal out, and it's going to play lightly and then harder depending on the kind of synth you have. This patch I have set up does not require velocity layer to be a factor. And then when you set that, you're going to set a maximum velocity. So like what's the hardest it's going to press down on the key. Now we have to think about note length. Note length is really important. If you're doing a pad, you're going to need a longer note length. You're going to need to hold that note longer. If you're doing something where you have effects put on the tail end of something and you want to capture those effects, you're going to have to hold that note longer until the effects are done ringing out. So whatever the hold is where you're done ringing out, that's about as long as you want to go. I only probably need 1 second, for this. So we'll adjust this down to 1 because it's a bass sound. And then the release length. How long does it ring out after you let go? Again, probably only need 1 for a bass sound of this type. This is a short hitting bass sound. MIDI channel is set to 14. I have to check on here and see what channel I am set to. So what we're going to do that is we are going to enter menu. And I'm going to scroll over to channel. Let's see what channel we're on. We are on channel 13. So this MIDI needs to be set to 13 because what it's going to do is it's going to play the notes, send the note out to the Roland S1 and record the audio signal into the Nanobox. Okay, so we need that set. Recording threshold, you could set it if you want. I don't think we need to for this, so I'll leave it alone. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit record. And what's going to happen is it's going to record each note individually and make a wave file. Record. Okay, so we have a problem here. What's that problem? When it began to play, it kicked off a sequence. So what I need to do is exit here, okay? And I need to shift clear notes, enter. Okay. And we could try that again. So we're going to record. Now you can see it's recording the note, holds for a second. I probably did not need to go down to C1 at this point. Okay, awesome. So now you can see we have this S1 bass here. When I click on it, I'm going to go down to C1 because that's where we started. C1. Awesome. So there you go. So that's how you make a bass multi-sample. Next week, I'll show you how to make a pad and turn a mono into a poly. Thanks for watching.